Imagine you're standing at the edge of the Sahara Desert. Before you stretches an ocean of sand, billions upon billions of grains, each one invisible in the vastness, yet together they form something so immense it defies comprehension. Now, pick up a single grain. That's it. Just one. Smaller than a pinhead. Weightless in your palm. You've just broken reality. Not with magic. Not with technology. With logic itself. What I'm about to show you isn't just a philosophical puzzle. It's a crack in the foundation of human reasoning, one that's been hiding in plain sight for over 2,000 years. The ancient Greeks discovered it first. They called it the Sorites, from the Greek word for heap, but they had no idea what they'd unleashed. Because this isn't just about sand. It's about every boundary you think exists, every moment when something becomes something else, every line between life and death, consciousness and unconsciousness, you and not you. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So let me ask you something before we go any further. Are you ready to question whether anything you call real actually has clear boundaries? Because after the next 15 minutes, you might never look at the world the same way again. Let's start simple. Picture this with me. Here's a single grain of sand. Is this a heap? No, obviously not. One grain cannot make a heap. 2 grains. Still not a heap, right? 3 grains. 4. 5. At what exact moment does it become a heap? Think about it. Really think. Is it at grain 100? Grain 1000? 10,000? Whatever number you choose, I can ask you this. What makes that grain special? What makes grain 9,999 just a collection, but grain 10,000 a heap? They look the same. They weigh almost the same. One tiny grain of sand, invisible among thousands, somehow transforms everything? This is where logic starts to shatter. Because we can flip this around. Start with a clear heap, say, 1,000,000 grains of sand. Remove 1 grain. Is it still a heap? Yes, obviously. Remove another. Still a heap. Of course. Keep going. 1 grain at a time. At what point does it stop being a heap? You see the trap now, don't you? We've stumbled into a logical maze with no exit. Let me show you why. Statement 1. 1 grain of sand is not a heap. Statement 2. 1,000,000 grains of sand is a heap. Statement 3. Adding or removing a single grain cannot change something from non-heap to heap, or heap to non-heap. These 3 statements seem perfectly reasonable. Most people would agree with all of them instantly. But they can't all be true. If statement 3 is true, if 1 grain can never make the difference, then we can never get from not a heap to heap. We'd be trapped forever in the land of non-heaps, no matter how many grains we add. Or going backwards, we'd never escape heapness, no matter how many grains we remove. Even a single grain would have to be called a heap. But that's absurd. Unless the problem isn't with our logic. Unless the problem is with reality itself. What if heap isn't really a thing that exists in the world? What if it's just a word, a label we paste onto reality, but the boundary is completely arbitrary, made up, meaningless? What else is made up? But let's make this personal. Because the Sorites Paradox isn't just about sand. When did you stop being young? Can you pinpoint the exact day? The exact hour? Yesterday, you were young. Today, you're not? What happened in those 24 hours that changed everything? Or consider this, you're looking at someone you love. Cell by cell, atom by atom, their body is constantly changing. Every 7 years, almost every cell in their body has been replaced. So tell me, is the person you're looking at now the same person you fell in love with? Or are they someone completely different wearing a familiar face? And you, are you the same person who started watching this video? Your brain has fired billions of new neural connections. New thoughts have formed. Old ones have faded. At what point do you stop being you and become someone else? The Sorites Paradox suggests that the boundaries we use to navigate life, the categories that make existence comprehensible, might be nothing more than comforting illusions. We live in a world of gradual transitions, but our minds demand sharp categories. Young or old, alive or dead, self or other, here or there. But what if the universe doesn't respect our categories? What if reality is all gradients, all transitions, all maybes? What if certainty itself is the illusion? This isn't just philosophy. This has consequences. In law, we need to define exactly when someone becomes an adult, exactly when a fetus becomes a person, exactly when someone is mentally competent or incompetent. But the Sorites Paradox whispers, these lines you draw, arbitrary, made up. You're making life and death decisions based on boundaries that don't really exist. In medicine, when exactly does life end? Brain death? Heart failure? The last electrical impulse? The paradox haunts every definition we try to make. And in our age of artificial intelligence, it becomes even more urgent. When will a machine become conscious? How will we know? What does it even mean to be aware? The Sorites Paradox suggests we might not even know what consciousness is in humans, let alone machines. But here's the most unsettling part. If categories like heap, old, alive, and conscious are just arbitrary human constructs, what does that say about the category you care about most? What does that say about you? We are standing at the edge now. The edge of knowledge. The edge of certainty. The edge of everything we thought we understood about existence. Some philosophers have tried to solve the Sorites paradox. They've proposed fuzzy logic, where things can be partially true. They've suggested that vagueness is a fundamental feature of language, not reality. Others have embraced the chaos. They say the paradox proves that our everyday concepts are hopelessly broken, and we need entirely new ways of thinking about the world. But what if the answer isn't a solution? What if the answer is learning to live with the question? Maybe the Sorites paradox isn't a problem to be solved. Maybe it's a mirror, showing us the beautiful, terrifying truth about existence. That reality is messier, stranger, and more wonderful than our categories can contain. That the boundaries we depend on are useful fictions, not ultimate truths. That uncertainty isn't a bug in the system of existence. It's a feature. So here we are, back where we started. A grain of sand. A simple question. But you're not the same person who started this journey. How could you be? You've seen behind the curtain of certainty. You've witnessed the moment when logic eats its own tail. You've stood in the space between is and isn't, where all the interesting things happen. The next time someone asks you a simple question, are you happy? Is this fair? Do you love me? You might pause, not because you don't know the answer, but because you finally understand the question. The Sorites paradox teaches us that reality doesn't have clean edges. The universe is written in gradients, not categories. In maybes, not absolutes. And perhaps that's not something to be solved. Perhaps that's something to be experienced. One grain at a time.